It is June 28th, 2021, and this is the Missouri Arts Integration Network. And you're joining us in the middle of a conversation, sharing information about what has been happening and what we hope will happen moving forward with arts integration in Missouri. So, Andrea, is there anything else you wanted to share about the work with the collaborative work that you've done with your classroom teachers in your previous work assignment in Coker? Crocker, sorry.
We're down by Waynesville. You could really see that they had all of the beginning knowledge that they needed, like with the sound waves unit. And when they came to me, they were like, oh, we know this. And we were able to go to dig deeper and move further than what they did just in the classroom. And then they could go back and share with their classroom teacher about how we applied what they had learned in the classroom. And it was really neat to see how how engaged they were with each other and how much more they wanted to do, because they were excited about learning and knowing that they could apply it in more than one place. So it was just really a cool experience. So, and the more I have done this, the better you get at it and you get new ideas. And so it's just something I'm really passionate about. And I hope that lots of people will jump on board and give it a try.
I think we are in agreement on that. Anyone else want to make a comment before we hear Tom Tobias's wish list?
Well, I don't know if I'm done with it, but what Andrea said brings up a very good point, and I'd kind of like build on what Alice said. Our definition for arts integration doesn't really mean anything if we don't have anybody actually doing it or working to develop more collaborations and to strengthen the approach. It's just going to be, it's unused, sit in a closet being unused, but which I'll make that my first goal. And I'll just read it here. More opportunities for statewide conferences that involve Missouri teachers presenting their own work. I think that for a long time, we have been promoting arts integration workshops from people from the Kennedy Center and maybe some other outsiders. And then everything just kind of like just stops there, or at least as far as I know. But apparently with Andrea, it hasn't just stopped there, because she's coming up with some of her own ideas, grassroots efforts. And I applaud that, but there should be an opportunity for her to get out there and say, hey, I do this stuff. And I can teach others how it has worked for us in Crocker School District.
Right.
That's one goal. I hate to keep going on and on. Should I just stop now and just leave it at that one?
Well, that's a good one. And I just want to emphasize that it's neat to hear somebody that's in a smaller school district that's taking the initiative to do that, and not only does it, but gets the staff of the building to buy in as well. Because so many times we're talking about big city schools and things like that, where there might be, multiple grade levels and all that kind of thing. And how do you implement it in that sort of a setting, when the reality is there's a lot more people that are in that small school type setting that Andrea is coming from. And it would be good for them to hear what she has done.
And what makes it unique is that Andrea, being the arts specialist, is the one who's showing the leadership.
Right.
Whereas some of the other places where we've seen arts integration starting to grow, the arts teachers really haven't been on board with it, which seems very, just like, how could that happen? But it has. So
I think that's a discussion that we've had over the years with arts integration, that arts classroom teachers can feel threatened by it. That maybe if the classroom, sorry, stupid allergy stuff. Maybe if the classroom teacher learns about the arts, that the regular arts teacher will be out of a job. So maybe Phyllis and Jeff and Roger, maybe that's part of the education that we have to do, is to our member, the Alliance's member organizations, no, you won't be out of a job. You're actually going to strengthen, you're going to be more useful if you take this on. So that might be a long-term approach we could work on.
I can use that as a segue for my second goal, if you don't mind me speaking again.
I don't mind, Tom. Please speak.
Okay. You gave me permission. It's very simple. It just say that anytime we talk about arts integration, we say that one of the things that we have to have, is the involvement of the arts specialist involved in the collaborative process with the other content area teachers. I mean, if we don't have that, it kind of like it removes one of the legs from our stool, and it's not really supporting arts teachers and arts education. I guess in a way it is, but it is definitely not supporting the work of the arts specialists, the arts teachers.
Yes, Tom, and I've heard some arts specialists who are not included in that process do feel kind of less than valued at times.
Which could be a segue into my third goal that would make sure that this always happens. And that is in order for arts integration to take place, at least in the way that MAAE wants to see it, is there's a widely accepted use of standards crosswalk between any arts standards and core area arts standards. And this is then used in developing curriculum and lesson plans. So if we always include those arts standards, to me, it's pretty difficult not to have the arts specialist involved.
I'd like to add a different opinion of this, or maybe just even a challenge. If this is important, especially to MAAE, then I think some other people need to be brought into the discussion. And I think it should probably be the big three that are doing the summer training institutes in Coca, Kansas City, and Springfield. And I think if this is a real buy-in, then that needs to be modeled at those conferences, that summer training that they're doing, and it needs to be said that clearly, because if it's not in that training, and that's the biggest training that we're doing statewide, then this message is not getting out that in the state of Missouri, and to all of our arts education, organizations, you must take the lead on this. It's not going to survive if you are not the ones that are making it happen. And that message is going to have to be super big and bold. It's not just going to, it's kind of like Tom saying, it's going to go away unless you have that kind of buy-in to that. But the people you're bringing in to these three, at least when I have observed, there are some arts specialists involved in that training during the summer, but there is no type of messaging that for this to happen, when you go back, this must be driven by your art specialist in your building. It's not any part of anything they're presenting.
Roger's right.
Well, the beautiful and easy thing for the arts specialist is we're not tied into any specific things that we have to cover within our standards. You can use any medium you want to cover your standards, which could be working with that fourth grade teacher on a story they're reading. And it's easier for us to adapt to things that they're doing in the classroom. And it doesn't have to monopolize the entire school year, but it can work. Sometimes they have to take the initiative to step out there and talk.
You're right. The standards are flexible enough that they allow a perfect relationship between whatever art form we're talking about and other content areas.
Yeah, but I think this may have to go far enough, and maybe this is something that Phyllis and I need to take on if this is the direction that MAAE wants to go, that we may need to really have that conversation with Sean Lane with Focus 5 that they're bringing in, because I've had the conversation one-on-one with him, and he'll say it is not a part of any of the teaching that we're doing, nor is it something that I advocate whatsoever. And so maybe we need to start saying, how can MAAE convince Coca, Kansas City, and Springfield to stop bringing in Focus 5 because they don't have this as a part of their training?
Either that, or they could just make it a part of their training.
And maybe that's why I said maybe that discussion needs to be had.
Yeah, we're asking them to expand what they're doing to better fit the realities of Missouri, which I think is a viable thing to ask people to do.
Well, but I think we also have to be ready to listen. That says
Right.
if they've been doing this nationally and are tied in with a pretty big partnership with the Kennedy Center, is there a reason they're choosing not to do this?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to advocate for that, but I'm trying to say maybe some listening needs to be done. Surely if this was super, super important, would they not be including this in their teachings nationally?
Well, a lot of times,
I'm sorry. I think just from having participated in those workshops for a number of years, and from my own perspective too, it's like you want the regular classroom teacher to get it so much. And I think there's almost an assumption, and then that we've talked about how classroom arts teachers are often sidelined, often marginalized. They're like recess, for when the teachers do their planning. Andy's going, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's like teachers are teachers, maybe if we're developing a message, that's part of it. And also just by us actively saying classroom arts teachers, we need you, that might help them feel less threatened by the notion of arts integration.
Jeff, do you see the band instructors at Rolla being leaders in arts integration in the district if they were to follow this model of what we need?
No.
Will they be on fire to learn about this and take on this role?
Not currently, because their focus is so much secondary and not really that interested in the big picture.
Okay.
And I think that's true for a lot of folks in a lot of school districts.
It is.
They're still in the silo.
Well, but then if this is so important, then we may have to figure out that maybe part of our messaging is changing so big in the state of Missouri. When you're going into the classroom to teach in the arts areas in the state of Missouri, this is what it's about.
Yeah.
And because otherwise you can't just kind of magically keep wanting to wave a wand out there and say, gosh, I don't understand why they're not, when they're saying, I have no desire to do this whatsoever, nor has it been any part of my training whatsoever. And you're asking me to switch at year 17 in my career. That's a little weird, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think part of what we're dealing with too is that we are so product oriented, like the performance is what it's about. The art exhibition is what it's about. And arts integration is inherently process oriented. And so maybe as we're developing our messaging, back to the economic value of the arts, employers value creativity in their employees. And hey, here we are with arts integration, we're being creative.
Right.
But then let's be careful and state what the battle is that's in front of us.
Yeah.
Oh, I understand. I'm sorry, I should have acknowledged that, Roger. I really heard you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not important, but if it is, then let's line up all of the armies behind what it is that we think needs to be changed.
Right. And I think that part of it is the same issue that we've had in the past of looking at arts integration as something that can be a part of the curriculum regardless of grade level, because so much of what has been out there was really geared towards elementary schools and the experience that folks have there. And having that make sense and relate to what people are doing junior high and above, I think is one of the ongoing challenges that we've had.
Right.
When I did it with my older kids, I had to take a totally different approach where I would find out what they were doing in some of their classrooms and then kind of dig around with what we were doing in my room to make connections.
Yeah.
It's harder to do for the olders.
Right. But it would be easier to do with the olders if the olders had had that experience when they were younger as well.
I absolutely agree.
So
that's I was in Crocker for 22 years, and I had some of the teachers I collaborated with, I had when they were in first and second grade when I first started there. Yeah. And I think that makes a difference. They knew what it was from when they were little.
Yeah. Yep.
How about Andrea, how's your administration with and your development, your curriculum developer, the leader in your district?
I have been through a lot of administrators in a small school. In 31 years, I've had over 30 of them. Sometimes they're absolutely wonderful. I had an elementary principal when I came to Crocker, and he considered me the authority on this subject, and you do what you need to do because you're the one who knows what to do. I've had some that could not have cared less, didn't show up to performances. We were nothing more than something to get attention for the school. We had to have concerts, but they didn't feel they needed to be there. And so, my school board has always been supportive of what I've done, as long as it didn't cross the lines and interfere with athletics, which is a pity. But,
a pity, but fairly common.
Yeah.
That
It
leads
just-
me to the fourth item on my wish list. And it is, and I think this is going to be the one most difficult to accomplish. And that's the increase and it's been kicked around a little bit by Phyllis earlier. Is that my phone? Gosh, sorry. Increased use of arts integration data as evidence to attract the attention of administrators who may not otherwise be interested. And here's the really difficult part: to tie arts integration as a necessary vehicle to create improved performance on standardized assessment. And that is the one thing that anytime that gets mentioned, a lot of times people bail. They go, I don't want to be involved in that. I don't want in any way, want to have to play a role in that. But really, when it comes right down to it, that seems to be the driving thing for school districts is how can they increase their standardized testing performance skills. But before I stop, I'm going to circle back to the Kennedy Center and why they might not always be aware of the arts specialists in the school or the arts standards. A lot of times they go into schools where there are no arts teachers, and doing things. And so they can't say, well, you need to have an art teacher to really make this work. That wouldn't work for them at all, because sometimes there simply are no arts teachers.
Right.
That's what we're facing in Crocker. There's been no one that has applied to fill my position. So right now, they're not sure what they're going to do.
You'll have to go back.
That's what someone told me.
Yeah, that it happens, unfortunately.
Yeah. Do you have a group of parents? I'll tell you, all it takes is, especially I found in Clayton, one vocal advocate parent who had their act together and was very good presenters to school boards and to administration, and really, because they wanted to cut us.
Yeah.
And they went to the school board meeting and said, this is what Mrs. Pino, they talked about the curriculum and how I make the curriculum come alive. And she's an authentic, real teacher. And the school board, they did not, they won't, but you need this parent group, or actually it was just one parent and who's valued in the community. He owns an art gallery in the community. And I don't care if they, whatever they do to make that community come alive and vibrant and help learning for kids, the school board will listen.
Yeah.
But I had to give them the right stuff to say.
Right.
At the school board.
Yeah, I think in Andrew's case, the board is supportive. It's the problem is that they're having difficulty attracting anybody to apply for the position, which is a common thing, unfortunately. We've got a number of younger music teachers that are living in Rolla, but teaching in a lot of the small schools around Rolla that I've just become aware of, and I'm starting to work with some of them. But it's unfortunately a real common thing. When your salaries are as low as what the Missouri salaries are, it's really hard to attract people to a rural school.
It is. And when I started, it was K-8, and then I acquired the high school because I was certified.
Right.
And it's just hard to get anybody in there.
And it's hard to do K-12, no matter how you slice it. I've been there and done that myself. So it's a real challenge. And part of the problem that we have is just identifying places that are having these issues. I know Roger's concerned with that, and a lot of the folks at DESE are, but just finding out who has positions that are unfilled, because we don't always hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not always a lot we can do about it, but it's hard, if you don't even know the size of the problem that you're facing.
Do you have anybody who could possibly be like a groom, an apprentice, from the community, even if like from the community, the church,
There were a couple, but they just kind of decided they didn't want to do it. I imagine what's going to happen as they continue to search and school starts in the fall, that I may end up being a long-term sub.
That's good.
I wouldn't leave the kids out there hanging.
Right.
I'm not jumping through all the political hoops, but I would do it for the kids.
Yeah.
I'm sure they appreciate that, Andrea.
Hopefully they'll pay you.
Well,
Oh, yeah.
hopefully.
I mean,
Hopefully.
better than what they would normally pay a sub, I would think.
Well, the preschool teacher came out of retirement to be a long-term sub because the preschool teacher quit at the beginning of the school year. So they can make it work if they want to.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wanted to share any of the items from their particular wish list?
I guess the logical thing to say is, well, what will we do about this?
Well,
I'll share one of the topics that I have been working on. I've shared a little bit before. I'm not sure with which committees or this group. So if you all are bored, just raise your hands and I'll stop. I believe that in the state of Missouri, with the COCA group, the Kansas City group, and the Springfield group, that they are the people that are making a difference in arts integration. And the reason I want to believe that is people are showing up, and they're not just showing up for 1 year, they're showing up for a second year or a third year. They're wanting to come back and get more training. And from a very firsthand experience, to have teachers attend these training sessions and have them leave saying, every teacher in our school district should go through this training, is a pretty big seal of approval for some people that didn't want to be there in the first place, for them to make that kind of transition. And there are some other people that said, I don't know what I learned about arts integration, but I'm taking home some teaching strategies that will change my entire approach to my classroom this year. So it wasn't, again, about a label. It was that they found meaningful things that would make a difference for them in their career and in their classroom. So in trying to study this, to see if there was a way that I could copy some of this, if this is the model that is producing action in the state of Missouri, I wanted to say, rather than just keep talking about how could I roll up my sleeves and try to get something to move forward. So I've done my best to say, how could I take this 3-day model that they do in the summertime and shrink it down to 1 or 2 days, which I don't know which is going to be yet, and what type of workshop could I present with the knowledge base that I have. And I'm not going to be a Focus 5 organization, and I'm not going to be Sean Lane. I'm not going to have that training that they have, but I think I've got a pretty good grasp on what it is they're doing by many of the sessions that I have been in and out of. So I've put together what I want the guts of the workshop to be. And I'm going to tell you way up front, a lot of the workshop is going to start at their fears and the places that they feel vulnerable. how to even get started in something that they're not so sure of, that might just be a taste and a sampling to what is this all about. Because I think sometimes people are nervous to do this because they're going to say, I'm not good at the arts, or I'm not good at dancing, or I'm not good at this, or I'm not good at singing, or I'm not good at drawing. Makes them go, no way, they don't want to be a part of it. So if we can start to lower some of that wall, then that sometimes can get people to say, I might take one step towards you just a little bit. And then the second thing is I want them to really understand kind of this model that's from New Jersey that talks about what is arts enhancement and what is arts integration, but what is it in your own classroom when you are just doing your curriculum, and when are you using something else to enhance the arts, but when are the arts teachers using another subject area to enhance what they're doing? The concept's not the same. So the more we understand it clear across to every it makes it that our school might have many types of enhancement and many things that we might integrate. We shouldn't be shy to something that teachers have been doing for a long time. But hopefully, if I can get that to where they're comfortable with it, to then make a leap towards, then let's look specifically at what's something really important to me, which might be the arts integration part of that. And I've worked through all of this enough to know I'm now at a point where I have to make a decision whether I'm going to go a full day workshop or I'm going to go a 2-day workshop. And I've decided I can't even make my mind up about it. I'm going to design both and then see which one I think I can get to fly. And I'm right now at the point where this last 3 or 4 days, I have actually had some time to work on this, that I've started plugging in ideas and concrete examples and do things that is so huge as a part of what we do when we bring in the Focus 5 people to do leadership. I'm still nervous about it. I'm gonna have to have something that's so powerful, shrunk down because I don't have time. Because one of the things that Focus 5 has said all along, we're not going to do this unless we can get 5 to 6 hours of instruction in it, because otherwise they don't leave with the confidence to be able to do this in their classroom. And makes me real nervous. I might be trying to do something that's going to fail, but at least if I can shrink it down to something, I might give it a attempt and see if it flies or not. I feel like it's at least, rather than talking about it, I'm rolling up my sleeves to see if I can do something about it. So that's a little bit of what I've been working on my end of it. A lot of things I'm really very vulnerable and very scared about myself, but I've also decided until I see it through, I'm not going to know whether it works or not. But I'm going to hope that can start some schools. When we can't get Focus 5 to them, then I could be their second best that might be able to give them a taste and a sampling of this, because my goal would be, if they took what I offered, they might want to make the effort to attend one of the 3 groups from Coca or Kansas City or Springfield, and maybe we could get something going along those lines. So that's long-winded, but that's something I'm working on. And if you want to know when I'm going to launch it, I'll let you know when I get it ready to launch, but it's moving forward and I'm pleased with the work that's happened.
Roger,
Yes.
I can't remember if you've ever done any of the brain dance sessions that I've done. But I can do that in 2 minutes. You probably have it at one of our meetings, but I can do it in 2 minutes. I can do it, in 15, I can do it in an hour. And there is something about that stays with people because it starts out so familiarly, like with a deep breath and all that. And so I just sort of wanted to just mention it, but also that if there's any way I can be of assistance.
Yep. I'll reach out. I absolutely will.
I'd be very interested.
This last week, it got to arts integration things that I've either taught myself or things that I've watched. Those kind of finally made it to a board to just start a brainstorming. Could I make it work? How much time would it take to do it? But what will it leave them with? And that's kind of the thing that started bargaining a lot, because I'm up against, when they're doing it, they're studying something intensely for no less than 6 hours to make sure that it sticks and the teachers are confident. And I'm scared mine's going to be, hi, we got through it, goodbye. And I'm nervous about that.
But Alice, you did that brain dance with 400 education majors, and I mean, they still talk about that.
I'll check in with you, Alice. And if nothing else, I'll use you just to run some ideas by.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
It was, and the students said that was authentic learning. It wasn't arts, they were mixed in, but these were classroom teachers. These were high school teachers. It was a big mix of 400 future teachers, and it was excellent. And as they said, there wasn't one straggler who tried to slip out the back door. They loved
Wait, I
it.
saw one, Maggie.
It was, yeah,
I was sitting in the back.
it was. And Tom, I mean, I thought Tom and I did this presentation together, and Tom has this amazing PowerPoint, about arts. It was great.
Right.
I thought, yeah.
Tom, can you help me with a name? Who is the lady that runs her own arts integration STEAM company? Her name is Susan something.
Oh, Riley.
Susan Riley. I attended like a week after I got to this position, I attended one of her summer conferences, and I was blown away with it. And it sticks with me forever. Tom, put on your thick skin for a minute. That one of the things they presented was, here is somebody that I teach biology, and I have enough arts background in photography to use this and integrate it into my lesson, then they didn't need an art specialist to help them. And then here was somebody where it was an art specialist, and it was somebody that was in social studies. They chose to work together and did their planning and their teaching and their presentation along the way. And then there was another one, was we don't have anybody in our school district that has the expertise for this, so we're bringing in a teaching artist. And it was one of the things I think they drove home to us for the day, is to say, don't limit yourself on where your resources are when you're wanting to find a way to do something. They said, we found out we were stronger when we worked from a point of identify the problem that we're trying to make academically better. Now go get the arts people that can help make that come to life, because that helps it go for the kids, rather than we're just shopping for things we could put together and say, look, we did arts integration. They were very founded from, I have a problem in my classroom that I'm trying to get better at. And that was kind of a different format from that whole conference. But it's one of those, it's stuck in my head, so I'm trying to find some different examples so that I'm not presenting everything from the perspective of a teaching artist. I mean, a classroom specialist, art specialist.
Well, yeah, but the one thing that can make that an important aspect is that any kind of a collaboration in arts integration includes arts standards. And that's really just kind of like the domain of the arts specialist. It doesn't always have to be. Certainly it doesn't, because the art specialist is being asked to, why do people bother me during this time?
Popular guy.
Because, the science standards are not the absolute domain of the science teacher. The arts educator is going to have to verse themselves on those standards if there's going to be any kind of a collaboration. It's got to be a two-way street. But I completely understand. You're not going to have anybody with photography experience in a school a lot of times, but you do have standards that would fit what they're doing.
But I don't know that science teacher did not read the art standards as well to make the decisions that he made.
Hopefully they do.
I'd like for it to all start with the standards, but I think sometimes it may start with the problem. But I'm not here to argue that all works out with them in their own classroom.
Yeah.
I just think in terms of perception of the arts, the creative types, they don't even know that we have standards. And so I think, just from a sort of almost publicity perspective, I think the classroom arts teacher or the arts integration, the teaching arts, whoever they are, that they march in with that on a placard. Here's the standards that I'm using, and now here's how they fit, with your GUIs and whatnot.
Right. It begins with a standard. If you can always just say that, it begins with a standard, you'll find the standard.
All right. It's a pun. Standard,
I got it, Alice.
Thank you.
The standard bearer is bearing.
Yes, precisely.
There you go.
Yes. So, Andrea, I am curious always when I find someone who is like their own grassroots, little environment of collaboration. Did the idea for collaboration come from you, or from a mutual discussion with your grade level teacher colleagues?
Sometimes it came from me. Sometimes it would come from the classroom teachers. We discussed things in faculty meetings about what they were doing, and they'd ask me for, well, do you know where I could maybe find some music to go along with our solar system thing? And so we'd go into, there's Pulse, the planet, and then we'd go on and we would end up working together. Sometimes it happened that that way as well. Our school, we're working really close with Rolla RPDC, and we've gone through DCI training and all of that stuff. And everybody has written their own priority standards. And the collaboration piece is really, really big at our school. And I don't know how it is at other schools, but I'm very lucky that I worked with a group of ladies that were very, very good about collaborating and, you know, putting pieces together to give the kids a bigger experience, especially this year, you know.
Yeah, with all the craziness, yeah.
In the fall, we had to come up with different ways to perform. And so we collaborated with the 4th and 5th grade with the ELA teacher, and I've taught computers one go around, and we did technology. And so we worked with the librarian and we narrated books, and they had to use the voice in certain different ways. They had to identify all the characteristics in a story. A friend of mine lives in New York City who is a voice actor, and he did Zoom conferences with them and answered their questions. And it really turned out to be a great project. It took us a long time because of quarantining and then, you know, being out and snow days, but it ended up where they also got to reach that standard in ELA about speaking. So it's going to depend on your faculty and how well they work together. If they think they have time to do it is a big piece.
That leads me to the 5th item on my wish list. And that is that as we move forward with arts integration, we have this situation kind of like you described, where the arts educator becomes the instructional specialist that can always find an answer to the problem that arises. Like, the kids just aren't learning this material, and it's proven by their lower performance on the standardized test score. And so the arts specialist, who by this time becomes an integration instructional coordinator, helps to discover those relationships, which makes the arts teacher indispensable in the school. Now, that's only a wish, but
The stuff that we've done with RPDC, the specials teachers are the experts because they want the classroom teachers to start teaching more like art, music, and PE, because we see the big picture. And you know, and it's just what we do. We go from bell to bell, and you go and you move, and it's really hard for the classroom teachers to transition to that.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any more wishes.
Thank you for sharing, Tom. Anyone else before we bring our discussion to a close today?
Phyllis, I have one question. I sent this to you earlier on email about Focus 5. I received a notice that they're shutting down our access to the materials on July 1. And this is coming up. I thought, oh, and the workshop isn't until the 26th and 27th.
They're
Do you
two
know
different topics.
Oh,
So
okay.
they have made, like many companies and corporations, have made many of their resources available through the pandemic to just help in the unknown situation. So many of those companies are going back in right now and turning off things that they've made available for a lot of people. So
Okay.
anything that they have been contracted with is a totally different, making sure their materials and resources and teachers and everything is all another separate category from things that were available online to anybody.
Okay. Thank you, Roger.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Maggie, for your question. Anything else?
Aren't you kind of hot outside there like that, Phyllis?
Really.
It's really kind of nice.
Really? Okay.
It's in the 70s here.
Yes.
Where are you?
Phyllis, you and MAAE kind of seem to be the holder of these wishes that are asked for and shared. And I'd also really maybe not now, but maybe at another time, I'd also really like to hear from you as to which of these wishes are, actual workable, tangible things that MAAE is going to make happen.
Yeah, I think when we have a meeting scheduled, I think it's July the 8th or something, or not. Yeah, that we're going to get together and look a little bit more closely at our short-term goals and see what of them might, be incorporated in some of the things we've talked about today, and get them a little bit more clearly refined so that they actually have some actionable items, some measurable outcomes. We can get us there.
Has MAAE ever asked the member organizations for their wish list on arts integration? Do we have that feedback from the actual members that are out there doing?
If it has been asked, it was before my time. Jeff, can you?
I would say no, that it hasn't been asked.
No, not in those terms.
Right.
I think that might be important information to have.
Yeah.
And not MAEA. No.
Yeah.
There's been an acknowledgement, meaning when reports are given, here's what Arts Integration Committee has done or is working on. There is.
But we're not getting feedback from the field as to who's using what and what they're doing.
True.
And that would be good information to have.
But do they also share in these same wishes? I mean, because
Right.
I want to know from them, they're ready to start convincing a whole lot of, educational, innards that can say, you've got to make it that we can serve as this specialist for the entire building. And either one, you got to figure out how I can do everything, or two, you're going to figure out what you're going to modify so that I can serve in this new capacity. And also, I hope somewhere along the line, MAAE is going to drive it to higher education of, we need training to be able to do this.
Right.
It's one thing to wish for it, but also somebody's got to have some expertise to be able to do it.
And we need a validated job description. It's just not more. It's better.
But it goes to the training that is at least happening, and in my opinion, I may be bold enough to say, is making a difference, because what they're learning, they're taking back to the classroom. Arts education specialists are not taking that training. Some of them will, but I'm going to tell you they're not taking it in droves. Right. So if this is going to happen, we've got to get this switched around to say, we got to know that you are sending every single arts education teacher you have in the state of Missouri. We've got to get this training to you because you have to serve in this capacity.
One issue that we've talked about, I know in the RIDE committee, is that and Maggie, you're very well aware of this, but the university, the curriculum in the universities that a teacher has to have is already so tightly packed. And how do you get anti-racism training in there? How do you get arts integration training in there so the teachers are coming out trained in this? And so one of our sort of very long-term goals is working with education, higher education curriculum. So Roger, I don't know, given your position, if how we can carry that discussion forward, but that is also a place that we need to go, I believe.
Ellis, I've seen seeds of success, because I'll tell you at UMSL, if students want something that once they graduate and get a teaching job, and they said, this is what I learned at UMSL and I want it more. And you were one of the names, that workshop came up, and that the administration will listen to students who want more of successful learning.
I want to say thank you to everybody for coming. And Andrea, I would still like to spend some time with you offline to learn. One of the things that I'm recalling is at the most recent Big Three meeting, there was a great desire for more music, that they feel like they have resources they can turn to for dance and for theater especially, and for visual arts with visual thinking strategies and using reading strategies and reading visual works of art. but music is where there is a voiced deficit. And so learning about ways that more music can happen in arts integration in Missouri, I think would be good news for the people who are working to plan. And obviously it would increase my knowledge base as well. So I'm
Sure.
hopeful we can chat about that at some point.
Yes.
And thanks again, everybody, for tuning in today. I hope you have a
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
4th
Yep.
of July, and we'll see you next time.
Take
care.
Nice meeting everybody.
Enjoy. Nice meeting you too.
Good to
I'm
see you.
really glad you're here.
Yes.
Bye.